Hey, this is a Hakawati production. Hi there, this is Nadia here with you. And before I get to our guest today, I want to give you a little update on the podcast. We started last June with a humorous idea for a show called The Men's Room that would reference, well, you know, the men's room for those of us who appreciate a little uncensored toilet humor. But the idea had a bigger purpose, of course. The main focus of the show is to introduce you to the Middle East's most influential and game-changing minds. It's no secret, of course, that there are more men than women in leadership positions, especially in the Middle East. But that's not to say that there aren't many, many brilliant Arab women in the region and abroad who operate at least at the same level as their male counterparts. Women who are leveling the playing field, not by what they say, but what they do. I've come to the realization, in fact, that there are so many of them that even with all the female-centric content that's so popular right now, some of these pioneering minds are not getting the attention they deserve. So the time has come, and to be honest, I've been waiting for this for a while now, to start introducing you to a few of the women we think could sneak into a men's room, women who could sit at any table with a bunch of guys talking shop and hold their own. But before we get to our guest today, I have a virtual ticket for you. So you're stuck at home and another weekend's coming up and you have no plans. But wait. Uber House, one of Beirut's most legendary nightclubs, has teamed up with other great clubs like BO18 and The Garden and organized an awesome 3-day virtual electronic music festival called Electronic Labor Day. And that's happening this Friday, May 1st, starting at 12 p.m. and going non-stop around the clock through Sunday, May 3rd at 12 a.m. So not only can you listen to live DJs from all around the world, including people like Jack Master from the UK and Mexico's DJ Hector, but it's also a fundraiser where you can show your support for all the nightclub and restaurant staff who are out of work right now, so you can make sure they're still around to entertain you and take care of you once this is all over. It's a great fundraising project, and I think it should be replicated all around the world, honestly. So check it out. Just look for Electronic Labor Day on all the main platforms, including Facebook and Instagram, to log into the live stream this Friday at 12. Okay, so let's get down to business. We have our first female guest on the Men's Room today. Joining me from London, please welcome the talented and hilarious Maria Shehata. Maria is an award-winning Egyptian-American comedian who has lived in New York, LA, and now London. Under normal circumstances, she performs regularly at some of the country's top comedy clubs. But thanks to COVID-19, she has turned her attention, lucky for you, to a podcast called Two Non-Doctors. And we're so glad to have her on the show today to bring a little humor to this crazy pandemic madness. Hey, Maria, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Great. Couldn't be better. So you're a stand-up comic. Stand-up comedy seems like a whole other world, a world of its own. I would imagine that it's a fun but really tough business to be in. Is it?
Whatever you're imagining is right.
Oh.
It's a really hard thing to do, to get on stage and try to make people laugh, and not to toot my own horn and say whatever I'm doing is so hard, but it really is hard. It's a very difficult thing. Have you ever tried stand-up?
No. And it's one of those things, it's like a lot of people think they're funny or, in the right kind of situation, they might say a lot of funny stuff and think like, maybe I could be a stand-up comic. But I'm sure that it has absolutely nothing to do with what most people think it is.
It does have something to do with it, but the problem with stand-up is because the audience has no background of you and they don't know anything about you. They're not your friends.
Right.
It's sort of like that person you are with your friends is ripped away from you and it takes you 10 years to get back to it. So you're just really bad at stand-up for a while, How
long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it like 15 years now.
Okay. I guess it would be hard, and I think that would be my problem. It'd be like you make a joke and you're like, what do you mean? You don't get it? Don't you know my sense of humor? No, you have to kind of establish that like in a very kind of witty way or clever way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can't really get on stage and say, what, you don't get it?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you guys? some people try to do, but it really puts the audience against you right away.
Yeah, so not going to try that.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, but if you can stand it, if you can get up there and bear bombing, then it pays off in the end.
Is it harder to be a comedian as a woman, and especially an Arab woman?
I think so. I think there's a sort of forgiveness you get as a white male comedian, and everybody just like they expect you to be funny, and then they see a woman. A lot of the times, when I'm at a comedy club and the MC says, "Your next comedian is," and whatever, they see a girl get on stage, and a lot of the times guys get up and go, "Oh, I'm going to go get a beer." They don't even want to watch women. So you're just right off the bat, you're just people don't have any confidence in you. So you have to dig out of that preconceived notion already.
What's the ratio of like male to female comedians? Do you know?
I mean, no, that's that's statistics, and I'm terrible with math. But I would guess. I mean, now like it depends. Like in England or America, maybe like 5 to 5, like half and half.
Oh,
But
okay.
in the Middle East, like I've talked to comedians all over the world. Just trying to get an idea of what like the female comedy scene is like. And a lot of times it might be 1 in 10. It's just harder for females to be nurtured in the field because a lot is going against them. Society, family, everybody sort of has a prejudice against females getting on stage and telling jokes for some reason.
Yeah.
Because like a comedic actress, fine. If you want to make a funny sketch, fine. But if you want to get up and do stand up, you're you're looked down upon.
It's unusual. So how Egyptian are you?
I'm 100% Egyptian. Like both my parents are from Cairo, but I grew up in Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio, so so I'm Egyptian by blood.
I mean, do you speak Arabic? Did you grow up eating, Egyptian food? Did you visit there?
I did grow up eating Egyptian food. I do not speak Arabic. My parents tried to teach me, and I just sort of didn't want to learn. But I was young. I didn't know. They should have just made me do it. Um, but yeah, I mean, all the Egyptian food I grew up with, and the culture was still there. Just I don't know. I don't know if watered down is the right word, but it's definitely like I had both worlds I was growing up with.
Yeah, watered down sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, at what point in your life did you decide that, hey, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian? And what did your Egyptian parents say when you told them that? I imagine even a boy would have gotten a weird response, especially from, Middle Eastern parents. What did they say when you told them?
Well, okay. So I decided after college I wanted to work at a comedy club. And then within like a couple of years of working at one, I decided I wanted to do it. I didn't tell my parents right away because I was afraid to. And so what ended up happening was the local paper did an article on me because I'd moved to New York. And so they were talking about, a girl from Ohio doing stand-up comedy, moved to New York. And that's how they found out. They saw it in the paper, and they weren't super happy with it. And obviously they're asking me what I talk about, and they said, "Well, it's just a hobby." So everything. So my entire comedy career has been like fighting with them about what this means to me in my life. Like they could accept it as a hobby, but not as a real career. And so when I quit my full-time job, that was a huge fight with me and my dad. And he was like, "Well, who's going to marry you if you're running around the country being a clown?" And they accept, yeah, which was right, but he was right.
Wait. Didn't you just get engaged?
No, I was engaged to
Oh.
another clown, and then no, we broke it off.
Oh,
And
I'm so sorry to hear that.
but I'm seeing somebody else now, and he's great. He's also a clown. It just turns out like other clowns. The comedians are attracted to other comedians. But yeah, I mean, they're on board now. They've given up trying to make me something else, and so they've accepted the comedy thing.
Oh, that's good. So, how big is comedy in the Middle East? I mean, in the States, it's really big in some of the major cities. And by really big, is it really big? I mean, it's kind of there's the stand-up scene, and then comedians kind of tend to graduate into more mainstream media. But what about in the Middle East? I saw that you had this Netflix film that you were in called Just Like Us a few years ago. And you guys were doing the first ever comedy show in Alexandria, Egypt. Is it getting more popular now?
I think it was. I think because that film is a little bit. I think it came out in 2009, maybe. I think around that time, the like stand-up comedy sort of got really big in the Middle East because of YouTube. And then so there was an Axis of Evil tour, which was Ahmed, Maz Jobrani, Aaron Cater, and Dino Bidala. And that really sparked a lot of interest and I think started the scenes in the Middle East. But I think it waned a bit, and then the Arab Spring happened, and after, I was talking to a female comedian in Egypt, and she said the mood sort of fell. She said there isn't a lot of comedy because they're not in a high spirit anymore, you know. But I mean, it's there. The scenes are, I think they're smaller. They're there, but they're not flourishing the way it might do in the West. But I mean, somebody proved me wrong. Like, I don't want somebody, a comedian, to be sitting in Palestine going, well, she doesn't know anything. It's like,
No,
maybe I don't.
I imagine that you're right. I would imagine, because I don't hear about that many, there's not a huge kind of scene, really. It's still more of an American thing. Do you ever go back to Egypt?
No, I haven't been back since 2007. I was supposed to go back right before the Arab Spring broke out. We were going to go on a huge Middle Eastern tour. So we're going to go to Egypt, Syria, like Lebanon, Yemen, Egypt, Palestine. And then the Arab Spring broke out. And then so one by one, we're crossing off Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. And we just went to Gaza where it was safe. And
good one.
And then, so I haven't been back. I'd like to go back, but my parents are getting very old and they're in Ohio, so they don't travel
far
long distances anymore. Yeah, and I don't really have a strong connection with my extended family in Egypt. So
okay, so you lived in New York. You went I don't know. Did you go to college in New York?
No, I went to college in Ohio.
Okay.
And then when I graduated college, I worked at a comedy club for a few years in Ohio, and then I moved to New York, and I was there for 4 years, and I lived in Los Angeles for 7 years, and then I've been in London for 4.
Okay, so what brought you to London?
I was engaged. It was the guy. And
okay.
Yeah, I met him when I was living in Los Angeles, but I had visited London just on a trip. And then we stayed in touch and we started FaceTiming each other while I was back in Los Angeles. And, for 6 months, we FaceTimed every night, 5 hours a night. And then he came to visit me. And then so after about 6 months, he proposed, and I moved to London after that. Which didn't seem that crazy because my parents knew each other for 3 days, I think, because like my dad was looking for a wife, and my mom wanted to move to America, and so he flew back and met a few potential women. It's like The Bachelor, and
yeah, but the times have changed. Let's be honest. I mean, people just live differently now. I don't feel that would be as successful unless you live like in a small town or village where you have like the world is tiny. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Times have definitely changed. There's all kinds of ways to meet people, more people. Like, I mean,
people have different expectations now also for themselves. They see that the world is bigger. You feel like, you can go anywhere and do anything. And I think that a few generations ago, that just didn't cross people's minds.
Oh, the world was much smaller. But now everything and everyone is at your fingertips. And you can learn about... you could go anywhere just on Google Maps. You could see the world sitting in your living room. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, wait till everyone has those VR goggles and doesn't have to get on planes anymore, which might actually happen considering they're shutting down all the airports for the foreseeable future. But
I was going to say, get on those VR goggles.
Definitely.
Now's the time.
Yeah. I mean, they have some amazing stuff like that they're developing, which literally makes you feel like you're visiting and seeing the actual places. But so how is the scene in London? I would imagine that it's not so great. And don't you feel like you kind of compromised by leaving LA and New York, which is like the heartbeat of the comedy scene, to go to this kind of not so popular for comedy city?
No, not at all. I think London's a great place for comedy. It's got a huge comedy scene. And actually, LA was terrible. I hated doing stand-up in LA. I just think LA was a good place if you want to be an actor, if you want to make a movie. There's like so many resources at your fingertips. But when you're doing stand-up, it's a really hard city to get an audience to just be a good audience. A, the weather's nice. Nobody wants to go see comedy when the weather's nice. Like comedy clubs notoriously get worse business in the summer. And B, when they do go see comedy, they want to see the stars. They want to see the ones that are on TV. The like, so coming up and stand up in LA was really tough. And so when I came to London, oh, the audiences here are just incredible, and they're up for laughing, and they come out in hundreds. And they I want to say they love me, but I realized how pompous that sounds. But I do really well here, and I have a great time, and I just feel like my humor's really, really like they really get it.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So what's the goal as a comedian? Is it to like just do stand up and be as busy and go to the most prestigious venues, or to get jobs in film and TV? What's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal is to have my own TV show. So I've written pilots for years. I have a pilot I'm currently working on, but I just keep trying and trying and trying. I want to get that show. So that's the ultimate goal for me. I know a lot of comedians who would be fine just headlining for the rest of their lives, but I need to do other things. I want to like make movies and make a TV show, and I have a podcast and all that. Like I would have a lot of fun in that medium.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, if you'll never fail if you don't quit. So,
Yeah, I know. And I'm just like, I'm going to keep going. Someone's giving me a TV show.
yeah.
I'm not giving up.
Good attitude. So, who are some of your biggest inspirations? Is there anyone that's really big now in comedy? You talked about the stars. Is there anyone that you think is really good at their craft and funny?
So many people. Oh, that would, you know, I would say like Sarah Silverman, Maria Bamford, Bill Burr are the three I love a lot right now. I mean, they just keep getting better and better and better. All the people I started loving when I started doing stand up are still in the game. They're still doing stand up, and they're just becoming monsters. And because they've got 30 years under their belt or something. And I don't know if you've ever seen Maria Bamford, but
No, I don't know who that is. I know who the other two are.
You don't know Bill Burr?
I do know. I do know. Of
Oh,
course, Sarah
yeah.
Silverman and Bill Burr. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, Maria's great. And, she's very open and honest she's open about her mental health issues. She's funny. She does funny voices. She's just a gem of a person. And I love that she does stand up. I don't know. So those are the three that really inspire me.
So how do you prepare your shows? Like, what's the process like? How do you get inspired?
For a live show?
Yeah.
I get very tired. Does that make sense?
No. I have no idea what you mean.
I almost feel like I have like stress-induced narcolepsy or something. I get very tired before a show, and I just have no energy. And I know people who like shadow box and they punch the air and like get ready for a set by pretend beating someone up. I don't know what they're doing, but I want to go to sleep. And so it's like I'm conserving all my energy or something. And so by the time I get on stage, I'm fine. I'm absolutely knocking it out of the park. But beforehand, you would think that I could pass out on the couch waiting to go on stage.
That's so odd.
Yeah, I would really like to know. It's actually something I should Google. I would really like to know if anybody else has ever. I know that some comedians talk about getting tired before their sets.
It sounds to me like kind of psychologically like involuntary escape mechanism. Like you just want to, let's just go to sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Know?
I think it's just too stressful. And so my response to that is to pass out.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you stay awake. So, but how do you prepare your jokes? I mean, do you write them down? Do you learn? I know a lot of comedians, like Trevor Noah, for example, talks about how he's very meticulous about writing the jokes and the way he's going to deliver them. Are you that meticulous?
No, everybody's so different. I'm not meticulous at all. I write the idea of the joke down, like just, bullet points. And my jokes are a mess. It's like all over my notes in my phone. It's on scraps of paper. It's on my computer. So I don't have like a one place I need to keep them, which I should. It would really help.
So do you come up with jokes like every day?
I come up with jokes as they come up, talking to a friend or just something I'm thinking about, or they just sort of occur to me. And then I get on stage, hopefully that night, and I try it and I see what happens. And if it gets a little bit of a laugh, I work on it and I make it better and I change it and I try it again, But it's just been hard because I can't get on stage. So now, if I come up with a joke, I'm thinking, all right, well, it may just disappear forever because I don't have an outlet and I might just forget about it. So I need to get really better about keeping track of them and being organized, but I'm just not meticulous. I know some people are. I've talked to a lot of comedians who just have a thought, they try it out that night, and some people who will write for hours, and I'm just not that person.
You've started a podcast called Tune on Doctors. What is that all about?
Yeah, that podcast is keeping me sane. So my friend Liz Mealy and we've been friends for over a decade, and we just talk to each other about our health problems all the time. And like, she thinks she knows everything, and I think I know everything, when really we're just Googling stuff. But so when the quarantine happened, we decided to start this podcast because it's just sort of, we've been self-diagnosing for years because we've had either no health insurance or bad health insurance. And we just thought it would be fun to like talk about our health problems and what we've Googled about health and stuff like that. Like, I have something called misophonia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
So it's literally translated into the hatred of sound. But I have certain sounds I can't hear, or it sends me into a rage. If that makes sense.
Really? Like which sounds?
Gum chewing and whistling. I cannot stand, and that's just two. But like, there's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's repetitive movement, like if somebody's twirling their hair or clicking a pen.
I mean, doesn't everybody kind of have that? I mean, I feel that way when people, I can hear them like chewing cereal, or if they're like tapping their foot. And, you know, at what point do you know that you can put a label on it?
Yes. So everyone gets annoyed by these things, but I am sent into a rage. So it's an abnormal reaction to annoying things. It's like I want to punch and throw and kill. And I thought I was a very strange person for a long time. And I remember Liz found an article about misophonia, and she was like, I think this is you. And then I get on Facebook, and there are a lot of people who feel this way. But the reaction to these trigger noises isn't a normal, like, oh, that's annoying, stop it. It's like, I'm going to kill you.
That's so odd.
It is. It's a very odd thing. It's a hard thing to explain to people.
Well, I'm glad you have it diagnosed.
Yeah, so she did that. And so we talk about that. We talk about her depression or dyslexia. We talk about the stuff we've Googled, like, I Googled, like, are horror movies bad for you? And she Googled, why does her boyfriend twitch when he falls asleep? Which I do, too.
And what's the answer?
I don't know, actually. She's going to say that today on our podcast.
Oh,
but, like, that's
keeping the
first thing
suspense. I see.
Yeah.
So,
do you twitch when you fall asleep?
Well, I'm not sure because I'm falling asleep.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess, yeah, there are some that sometimes like it kind of wakes you up and you're like, oh, right? Is that what?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that is weird. I wonder why.
I think your muscles are relaxing, and then they just twitch as they relax. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever smoked pot, but the same thing sort of happens when you're high.
Okay.
And I just think it's something to do with muscle relaxers.
Oh, like maybe a nervous thing. A nerve thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, doctors are in the house, clearly. There is at least one, anyways. So the name of your show, is it inspired by that 90s band, like Four Non-Blondes? For some reason,
Yeah, it is. It is. We, because I used to make fun of us for all the self-diagnosis we did. I'm like, we're like two non-doctors. And she was like, that's funny. We should use that for a title for something. And then we eventually did. But yeah, I was definitely inspired by Four Non-Blondes.
It's kind of funny because Four Non-Blondes, they only had that one hit, What's Up, which was actually a great song. But the singer, the head singer, Linda Perry, is actually like a very powerful producer in LA. She's written songs for a lot of singers like Christina Aguilera and Adele and Alicia Keys. And so I just thought it was interesting because she's actually a very she just got an award at the She Rocks Awards for being like a producer and a woman producer and stuff like that. And I was wondering, are there any awards for like female comedians?
I don't know, but if there are, I'd like to put my hat in the ring. By the way, Linda Perry wears amazing hats.
I was going to say. Yeah. I was like, what a coincidence. Maybe you should wear a hat.
I think that's a good idea, actually. I think I just need a look, Sometimes
that helps. Maybe like, those guys that are going out for a beer, like if you had like some kind of hat or, I don't know, something to be like, ooh,
conversation starter, just
Yeah,
like, oh, it's a nice hat. Where'd you get it? And then suddenly we're talking, and then I'm handing him my business card for my podcast and my website.
exactly. So, is female comedy different, you think, than male comedy? Like, what are some of the topics that you talk about?
I don't think it's that different. I just think that I think the only thing is that women talk about their periods, which guys go, ugh, I'm turning off right now. Like, I'm always afraid to say that on the podcast and have people tune out. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, men and women talk about, sex, food, family, jobs, money. I mean, there are only so many premises out there in the world. It's just all down to perspective. Um, but I just feel like as soon as a woman talks about her body specifically, guys are like, oh, you're just one of those female comedians that all you talk about is your body. And like, I don't know how dirty we can be on this podcast, so I
You
clean
can be
that
as
up.
dirty as you want.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like they're always like, women all they ever talk about is their vagina. And it's just guys talk about their dicks all the time. All the time.
That's
And
really
like,
true.
yeah. And nobody says anything about it. But as soon as a girl says anything like uterus, period, tampon, guys are like, it's like they're 5 years old and they cover their ears and run screaming.
I think the vagina thing, I think if you were to use other words, like I know the whole V word is a whole thing, but I think if you were going to use like a dirtier word, I think they would actually be like in it. Like if you use the word pussy, for example, I think they would find that sexy.
Oh, you think they would turn on to that, but not if
Yeah.
that pussy is bleeding.
No,
They're like,
so
oh no.
well, let's not forget that's actually like a unpleasant bodily function. Like, but you're right. Guys talk about like, pooping. They talk about this kind of stuff, and they're like, oh, laughing. They laugh amongst themselves. But I think women, when they hear a male comedian talking about that, that's kind of the moment where they're like, ew. So it goes both ways. I guess you have to balance it out.
Yeah, I just don't think that women are that much different than men. I just think that it's less tolerated if they do talk about that stuff.
Obviously, you have a lot more experience with this than I do. But I could see how, as a woman, even sometimes, I mean, it's not just those topics. I don't know how you feel about language as well. Like as a podcast host, I sometimes think about using certain expressions that I use in my everyday life. Like, I don't know, the F word, shit show, things like that. And I know that being a woman, especially in the Arab world, would be less tolerated. If I was a guy, it wouldn't even be a question. But I know that might turn off some of my audience.
Well, that's why I even asked. I was like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here. So I was keeping it super clean. I'm like, women talking about their bodies. I know that
Ladies.
this, yeah, I'm like, are you trying to get advertisement? Like, I don't know. Will I ruin it if I say dick?
No worries. So how do you record? I mean, okay, let's talk about podcasts. Everyone has a podcast now in the US at least. What are your thoughts on podcasting, and how do you record yours? Do you record yours from your house and like remotely with your co-host?
Yeah, I feel like I couldn't imagine an easier art to get into than podcasting. Like stand-up's pretty accessible. You don't have to have a big instrument that you lug around. You don't have to have a lot of money or any money. You just get on stage with your thoughts and you say them out loud. The only thing stopping most people is the nerves of that. Podcast, you're in the safety of your own home, in front of your computer. You don't necessarily have to be in front of other people. And it's just, I mean, like, yeah, of course everyone has their podcast because we do ours on Zencaster because she's in New York, she's in Brooklyn, I'm in London. So we have Zencaster, which will record both of our audios and mesh it together. And if it's that easy, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't anyone just record a podcast? Because to be honest, I spent some money on a microphone. I didn't need to. I'm not using a mic now, but I've used no mic before. I sound fine, and you can hear it fine. And it's just it's easier than blogging because you don't have to write. No one likes writing.
Well, I like to write. I'm sorry.
Well, you're a freak. But like...
Yeah. I'm joking. I mean, I know what you mean. It's a lot more, it takes a lot more time and thought to write something, and talking is just like, you can talk whatever you want and let loose. And the expectations are lower in some way for some reason. I don't know why. So what's the stupid, as an Egyptian American, do you feel like you're ever typecast? And do you think that, I mean, what's the stupidest thing you've ever gotten in the West, like relating to your nationality, or not your nationality, your heritage?
Like in LA, I had a guy friend who was a bit of a pothead. And when I told him I was Egyptian, he was like, "Oh, dude, you're Egyptian? I thought those people were extinct." It's like,
No way. What
yeah.
does that even mean?
He just, because like everyone in America, like when you hear of Egypt, you think of ancient
Oh yeah,
Egypt and
like
the
the
pyramids
pharaohs.
and aliens, and you don't think of current Egypt, I guess, but most people know Egypt's still there. And like, I just laughed so hard when he was like, "I thought they were extinct."
That's
Um,
really funny
yeah. So
and
it's probably
sad.
the dumbest thing that's come up. It's very sad, but he was pretty.
Yeah. So he was pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty then. So what's the plan? I noticed that you had a lot of dates planned for the next few weeks in some of the comedy clubs in London. What are you gonna do? You've canceled them all. What's your plan?
Yeah, well, the podcast is the plan. It has a Patreon. If people enjoy the podcast, they can donate, not donate, I guess it's like subscribe to the Patreon. That's one plan. And the next, like I do a bit of stand-up comedy coaching, like online Skype sessions.
Can you give us a tip here? Like, what kind of tip would you give in a session on learning how to be a stand-up comedian?
Like, don't write your jokes like you're speaking formally to an audience. Like, so many open micers start comedy as if they are giving a presentation. And you say like cliches like the truth of the matter is, and suddenly like you become this performer rather than a friend just speaking to another friend. So when you're writing, I would say have your best friend in mind and write as if you were speaking to them, and that's how you should deliver the material. And opinions, points of view are so important because a lot of the times when you start out, you just say the words of the joke and you're delivering it like you're a newscaster. There's no point of view behind it. There's no emotion behind it. You're not angry. You're not self-deprecating. And it's like you need something like that. You need the emotion to drive the joke. That's almost sometimes funnier than the actual joke itself.
So where can people hear your comedy?
Let's see. So my podcast is called Two Non-Doctors, and that's on every like Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all that. And if you go to my website, mariashehata.com, I have videos. I have a couple videos up and links to my YouTube.
Awesome. Well, check it out, everyone. And Maria, thank you so much for joining us today and for talking to us and for being our first woman on the men's room.
Yeah.
Yeah, an Egyptian to boot. Like it doesn't get much better than that. Like you're extinct, and we found one of you. It's awesome.
Well done, you. It was fun being in the men's room with you.
All right. See you again next time. That's it. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and give it a thumbs up. Don't you wish they had other fingers there? Well, not for this show, though. Thank goodness they don't have it. Actually, bad idea. But be sure to follow us on social media at hakawari.fm and the Nadia Michelle. Ugh, I need to change that IG handle. Lots of love. See you next time.